What's up, everyone? This week on the pod, I got Nick Jett, the drummer of Terror, as well as the singer of Piece by Piece, and engineer, and all around just like kind of unspoken hardcore glue guy, maybe an underrated MVP out there for all the work he's done with so many different seminal bands as well as his own bands. So we'll go into that interview. The first half of the interview I did when I started doing a Terror project that you're going to hear next week. And then I did a second half because I decided that I didn't know how to tie in Nick's origin story into the Terror pod. And then I was like, this is too good. Like, you want to know about how Nick Jett got into punk and hardcore and his early shit. So we got to preserve it. And then so I decided to do a second half of the interview where we talk about all his non-Terror stuff. So we go into all the piece by piece stuff, as well as a lot of his engineering stuff. So that's coming up today. If you would like to support the podcast, please like, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts. Please subscribe to it as well. That means, it'll be there for you every Wednesday when it comes out. If you want to go the extra mile, you can go to patreon.com/185 miles south and become a Patreon. These guys, they plunk down a little bit of their money, be it $1 or $5, $10 every month to help support the podcast, and they are my personal heroes. The podcast would not exist without the Patrons. So check that out, patreon.com/185 miles south. And let's get on with the pod.
185 miles south, a hardcore punk rock podcast.
All right. Well, we'll see how we're going to edit this, but as of now, we have Nick Jett from Terror on the line.
Yo, what's up?
And what's up, dude? So, the start of the Terror story is really, it's the Nick Jett story, right? So, because you're so formidable, you and Todd and Scott starting the band. So, I've already done Todd, and I already did Scott, is their pre-Terror stories and Todd's Terror story.
Yeah.
So, I wanted to start with you, Nick.
Cool.
How did you come across punk and hardcore, and how did you get into the type of music?
It was actually through my dad, who he's a drummer also, and he was kind of like in the 70s was kind of like into like all different types of stuff. He was playing in he was living in Tennessee at the time, and he was playing in like country groups, rock groups, and then he was exposed to like punk rock even in the 70s in Tennessee. So like he saw the Sex Pistols on their one and only US tour in the 70s in Memphis. So he was at like one of their 10 shows that they played. So so when I was probably like 11, 12 or something like that, he had played something like Sex Pistols or something like that, and I was asking about it. I was like, what is this? And he was like, oh, you're interested in this. And so he kind of just started schooling me from the beginning, just like, here, check this out, giving me records and stuff like that. And at that point, I just was just fully getting into music. So I just totally like latched on to all these things. A lot of LA punk. When my dad moved to LA in the late 70s, he got to see like Fear and Circle Jerks and a lot of the like LA punk bands. So that was stuff that he really liked, and so he was like, check this out, this is like LA punk. So that was my first exposure to it, and I didn't have any friends that were listening to it. It was more just kind of like my dad checking, giving me stuff to check out. So I don't know, it was quite a few years before I met anybody like in school that was like listening to punk. But yeah, gradually it was just like, meeting like, oh, there's a guy with like spikes, or like, just like totally just like there's somebody that might listen to some of the same stuff as me. So just kind of meeting people like that at school, and then just kind of gradually forming a group of guys and girls that were like into punk rock and stuff.
Yeah, and then when do you start your first band and start playing drums in a band?
Yeah, so like the first like group of people that I met, they were like not big into punk, so they were like into different stuff. So we played like Jimi Hendrix covers and stuff like that. I was probably 12 at the time. And like Nirvana and stuff like that. So that was like obviously huge then. Yeah, so we just played like Nirvana and like Jimi Hendrix covers and stuff like that. Yeah, so it was a lot of like playing with different people, like different bands, but like just playing like whatever everybody was into. So, it definitely wasn't like a punk band at any point until I started meeting, some of these punk rock people.
Sure. And then so what is the first punk or hardcore band you do?
Yeah,
and how old are you?
Yeah, so I was like, I guess I was probably like 14 or something.
Okay.
I was just starting high school, I guess. There was one guy that I went to like junior high school with that was like we kind of were both listening to punk stuff, and then when we got into high school, we met this other dude who played guitar, and then I can't remember what the connection was, but we started this band with a girl on vocals, and she wasn't really like into punk, but like the three of us were, and she just wanted to sing, and she was kind of crazy. So yeah, we started this band called Blind Libido, and it was kind of like, I don't even know like how to describe it. It was kind of like maybe like Descendants mixed with like, I don't know, like maybe even like Offspring or something like that. It was kind of just like a weird 90s kind of poppy, kind of like wanting to be punk kind of band. So
taking a stab.
Yeah, sure. So that was probably like the first punk-ish type of band.
And did that band record at all?
Yeah, so like back then there was like, I'm sure it's like, trying to get something recorded at that point, it was like you either had money and you were like, were able to get into a studio, or it was like you're recording with your friend or somebody you knew, or you figured out how to record yourself. So that was kind of like my introduction into like doing like recording stuff too. So I just, bought like a 4-track, and we just like started experimenting, like recording stuff. So yeah, so like I did all the recordings just kind of like total ghetto style on cassette 4-tracks, and pretty much any kind of weird microphones we can get our hands on, stuff like that.
Yeah, that's fascinating that you start that early with the interest of wanting to record.
Yeah, well, I think it was like, we didn't have any money or anything, so it was like, I think like the first 4-track thing I bought was like literally like $100. So it was kind of like just like literally like just saving up like, some allowance from some chores or something like that. Like, all right, we got like $119. We can afford this like 4-track, and so that was kind of yeah.
Do you still have those recordings?
Yeah, I mean, I
oh, that's sick.
I wanna get all this stuff transferred, because obviously like all the all the tape and everything isn't gonna last forever. So I'd like to get all the stuff digitized at some point. But yeah, I just have like boxes of like these tapes, 4-tracks, and all types of shit recorded from back then.
Yeah, Armo can do it for you.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, he's been doing a bunch of that stuff for us. But
awesome.
That's super cool. And so do you do that band? Is it just like a high school thing, like where it lasts about 3 months, but it feels like a few years?
That band lasted like a couple years, surprisingly, because like
Nice.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just like, I think because the two other guys that were in the band with me, like we were such close friends that it was kind of like, these are my boys, like we're into punk rock. I mean, I really didn't meet like any other really influential people, at least for a couple years, that, you know, that I wanted to like start bands with or anything. So that, like, yeah, we did that band for a couple years, and like it was like a thing where like literally just playing house parties like every weekend.
Sure.
Like, yeah, I think we ended up playing like the Roxy one time,
Nice.
like a pay to play kind of thing, where like you have to
Sure,
sell
sure.
150 tickets, but you can play, you can open up at 7 o'clock for this, you know, like band or whatever.
Of course. Yeah, that's wild. So what is the band you do after this?
So that band like kind of fell apart, and we met this dude who was like kind of friends with the chick that was like singing in the band. And he was the first like straight edge dude that I met. And so we formed a band with him, and it was like all the same guys in the band, and we just replaced the singer with this dude and started this different band. And so that he was like just big into like Minor Threat, and so he was a little bit older, and yeah, he exposed me like a lot of new bands I'd never heard before. Like I'd never heard Minor Threat at that point, so that, you know, so that was huge. But yeah, but he was like a straight edge dude. He was like full into it, and we started that band. That band was called Standoff, and yeah, I mean, that band was like definitely like one of those, yeah, just like a few months kind of thing. But but yeah, it was pretty, like, I guess it was pretty important because that was like, felt like I was kind of like, you know, it was like my introduction into hardcore. It was like, are we a hardcore band or are we just a punk rock band kind of thing?
Yeah. The lines are being drawn a little bit in your head.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Is that dude still around at all?
You know, I mean, I ended up like, yeah, I have no idea. I haven't like seen him or heard from him in probably like, literally probably like 18 years or something like that. Yeah. So
Gotcha.
yeah, I don't know.
Okay. So what is the band that you do after this then?
Yeah, so pretty much like after that, like that's, so I met this dude Sean Grimes, and we were at the same high school together, and he was like the first dude that I met, like, all right, this is a hardcore kid, like full on, and it was just him, and he was friends with this other dude, Adam, and they both went to the same high school as me, and they were I think a year or two older, but they were like full on, like, we're hardcore kids, and this is like what we listen to. So I started a band with them, and I played bass in this band.
Okay.
And so Sean's a drummer, and yeah, the band was called Fistful.
That would have been the band I saw.
Yeah, this was definitely that band, yeah.
Okay.
So
in this band you start playing like shows in the scene.
yeah. So like the singer, he was like this dude Anthony. He's actually been in a bunch of bands. He's like still plays in bands. But he was from the area. He was older than us, out of high school. But he was like, so he knew a lot of people. And one of the things is he had a full on like soundproofed like practice spot built in his garage. So
nice.
like we practiced there, but also like he let other bands practice there. So that was like. So like all these hardcore kids were like, oh, can we practice at your spot, kind of thing. And so that was like literally like that spot was the connection to like meeting like the Carry On guys for the first time. Just because you'd show up and there'd be other bands there and you'd meet dudes or whatever, or, you know, they'd be like, oh, can we get on that show and stuff like that.
Yeah. Do you remember meeting Ryan or Todd the first time?
Yeah. So I met Todd and Corey at that rehearsal spot at that dude's house. And that would have been like, I don't know, probably like 98 or something like that.
Okay.
They were showing up like not practicing with Carry On, but they were like, I don't know what bands they were playing, or maybe they were just jamming or like trying to form a band or something like that. But they were showing up to like to jam and whatever, and it was definitely like one of those things that like, like I had like heard about Carry On, and I knew a little bit about them, and I knew that they were like the band kind of from the area. At this point, I guess Todd and Corey, well, I don't know if Todd had officially like moved to LA, but I think that like Corey had like kind of lived in the LA area at this point. So they were kind of like in LA. They were kind of like, I thought they were like an LA band, kind of like, when I first heard about them and kind of associated them with being from LA.
Yeah. Well, they all moved there right around that time.
Yeah.
So probably 99-ish around then.
Yeah.
They're no longer a Tuscadero band.
Yeah.
Or wherever that area is. So you meet these dudes, and then how do you end up joining Carry On? You join after they do the LP, correct?
Yeah. So like, so I remember like when the self-titled 7-inch came out. And at that point, I'd already kind of became somewhat like friends mainly with Corey at first. He was definitely like it's weird because he's only like 4 years older than me, but like I considered him like the like hardcore dad in the scene. He was like the dude that
he has that vibe.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, he has that vibe, right?
And I always like reference him when I'm talking about like different scenes, different cities. There's like always kind of like the dude in the scene that's like kind of the dad that kind of like dads everybody in the best way possible, like kind of shows them the way in all the right ways. And if they're like fucking up or doing something wrong, like, hey, don't do that. Like, but he's also like the dude that like will pick you up and take you to shows and like expose you to like all the, records and everything like that. So for me, that was like, this dude was like, oh, you got to come to the show, or like, here, take these 7-inches. Like he would just give me 7-inches and stuff like that. So
sure.
Yeah, I remember like Corey giving me like Carry On 7-inches, and he gave me the self-titled 7-inch. And for me, that was like the thing that sold me on Carry On. I was like, all right, now this is like my favorite band. Like this is like, like to me at the time it was like, this is the best thing I've like ever heard. Like this is fucking awesome. So
yeah, and that's the first one that Todd writes.
Yeah,
the songs on.
So Todd had kind of started writing, and I mean, even if you listen to those 7-inches now, I mean, you could really like, to me, like that 7-inch still kind of stands the test of time. Like it's really like the sound of Carry On kind of like really like got solidified on that record.
Totally.
But yeah, so it was like I heard that record, and then I knew I was going to like Carry On shows all the time at that point, and they were like always kind of having different dudes fill in. It seemed like I feel like every time I saw them, it was like different dudes, like like playing bass or playing drums. So yeah, I knew that they were like out east recording, and I was talking to like Corey, and then Sean had become really good. Sean from Sean Grimes, he had become really good friends with Corey also. So he was like kind of talking me up to Corey, like, cause like their drummer, Carry On's drummer at the time, was like, I can't remember like why he was like, he had to like leave the band or didn't want to do the band, but there was just kind of like a rumor like, oh, he's not gonna like be in the band there, and they might need a drummer kind of thing.
Well, he lived fully out of state.
Yeah,
too,
he was
right?
like
he was
not
from,
from there.
he was-
Yeah,
He's he's either in Seattle or he was in Vancouver.
yeah.
I can't remember which.
So I don't really know if like if like I guess I never really heard the full like story, like why he left the band or why that didn't work out. But I guess what came of that was just like, oh, there's like might be potentially like a spot playing drums, and I was like, I like heard about that, and Sean was like talking to Todd and Corey, like, yo, I know like you saw this guy play bass, because I think they only saw me play bass like for Fistful at some shows. They're like, but he could play drums. He's like, this dude could play drums. And he's like a punk rock dude. He could play fast. And so like, yeah, like when they came back from recording, I think it was pretty much like right away, where like I remember like getting like a phone call from those guys like, hey, would you be like interested in trying out? And so yeah, I did like a tryout kind of thing with like, it was just me and Todd jamming at like a rehearsal studio like in North Hollywood. And
How nervous were you?
oh, super nervous. It was like, because at this point Carry On's like my favorite band, and Todd is like definitely an intense dude. So you're like, if you're just like a little kid, like at this point I was like still 18, I guess. Maybe graduated from high school. I guess I had just graduated, something like that. But I was just like, yeah, super nervous. But I played these songs. Like I think they gave me like a few songs to learn. They're like, learn these 3 songs or something like that. So I just like, just fucking played the shit out of those 3 songs, like in my bedroom, like had my drum set up and just played to like headphones, like over and over again, played to these like few songs. So I felt confident that I could like play the stuff, but it was still like super nerve wracking. It was like, like I don't know what these dudes are gonna think of me or whatever. And so I got there and it was only Todd, and I was like, okay, like this dude's like super intense. And yeah, Todd's like, I think he's only like a year older than me, but it just felt like this dude was like 10 years older than me, kind of thing. I mean, sure. I didn't know Todd that well at that point. I'd only like probably talked to him, or definitely wasn't like, I wouldn't consider him like a friend at that point. It was kind of just like an acquaintance. I would say I was friends with Corey at that point, but like Todd, like definitely not. It was just kind of like, I know, like, heard about this dude. Like I've already like kind of heard stories about the dude. Like he's crazy. Like throws his guitars like through, like just like kind of wild stories. Like I was like, okay, this dude's like, intense, obviously, but
yeah, he had a little temper.
Yeah. So like, yeah, like the jam with him like went really well. Like I think we just played through the songs like maybe even just like one time. He was just like it was definitely like a right away thing. He was like, all right, cool. Like he's like, are you straight edge? And I was like, and at this point, so like I've never like done any drugs. I never drank, never like tried, like never even smoked a cigarette. Like I'd never done anything my whole life. So at this point, like I was like, what? I wasn't calling myself like straight edge, but I was like, I felt like I'm straight edge because I'm not doing any of this stuff. And obviously I'm listening to straight edge records and everything. And sure. I guess I just like, I didn't know enough straight edge dudes at this point to like feel like I was like a part of a group or anything like that. So I just never like started calling myself like straight edge. And that was like the first moment where it was like, so are you straight edge? I just remember Todd going like, so you straight edge? And I was like, yeah, I'm straight edge. and like I was like, all right, I guess I'm straight edge now, kind of thing.
Don't break the oath.
Yeah, like whatever.
You're in now.
Yeah, and I mean, at this point, like after that, after I started playing in Carry On, it was like I got exposed to all these people that were like in the kind of LA, Oxnard, Ventura County like scene. I mean, I just like at that point it was like I met so many people and ended up meeting like, you know, like all these, like a lot of people that ended up becoming like lifelong friends, you know, people that I still talk to now. So that was like, yeah, it was pretty big like moment, just like getting exposed to like the real, like I actually felt like I was a part of the scene at that point. But yeah,
sure.
But there was tons of straight edge kids also. I felt like almost like almost everybody was straight edge. Like everybody you met, like was like, all right, like a lot of those dudes were straight edge, and it was just kind of like this group of people around like the Carry On, the band and everything.
Yeah, well, it was huge because you had two different pretty big straight edge scenes, because you had like the whole like the Indecision record bands that would play like the Showcase and so forth, like Adamantium, Throwdown. Yeah. And like, you know, 18 Visions, like those, I think they were straight edge too at some point. They were like hardline. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, and then the, like all that Floor Punch stuff, it hit out here a little late.
Yeah.
You know, like it started there in like 95 and it hit out here in like 97-ish.
Yeah.
You know, and then you had like everyone that was into like the In My Eyeses and the Floor Punches and so forth.
Totally,
so,
yeah.
Yeah, that going all the way up into, you know, the year 2000, the straight edge thing was huge.
Totally, yeah.
Like big. So how many shows do you play with Carry On? Like you're there after they do the LP.
Yeah.
You do 2 East Coast tours?
I only went to the East Coast once with them.
Okay.
Yeah, so I can't remember when they actually recorded the LP, but I was pretty much in the band right when they got back from recording that. So right away it was like, here's a rough mix of the record, like learn these songs. And we just started playing shows. Like I want to say I maybe even played my first show with Carry On like less than a month after like jamming with Todd. And yeah, sure. We just played like just weekend, like it was tons of like just little weekend tours like on the West Coast. We did stuff with like American Nightmare. Kind of just like a lot of, like the First Step. I remember doing like a weekend with them. Just like a lot of stuff when bands, like a lot of East Coast bands coming out to the West Coast, and we would just do like, you know, like the California shows with them or whatever it was, like regional stuff.
Sure.
Yeah, so we did. Yeah, I mean, this was also, I remember like when I first started getting exposed, like we played with Life's Halt and No Reply, and that was like a whole nother kind of scene. I mean, it was still connected, like everybody in Carry On was like friends with like those dudes and those bands, but this was like the first time that I kind of realized there was kind of like this other kind of like punk hardcore scene that I was super into at the time. So a lot of those bands we played with. So the East Coast tour I did with Carry On was kind of like the record release tour. And I want to say that was like in October of 2001. And it was kind of like this total Bridge 9 tour. It was like that band, The Hope Conspiracy,
sure.
Death Threat, No Warning, and Carry On, something like that. Okay. And it was like 10 days on the East Coast. We played like that, like back to school jam in Boston. So that was kind of like the biggest tour that I did with them. So that was like, we played CBGBs on that tour. which is like was super insane. And this was like a few weeks after 9/11 kind of thing too, so it was like super unreal being in New York City just a few weeks after 9/11. And yeah, like my dad flew out to go to the CBGB show because he was like holy shit, so you're playing CBGBs, like I'm fucking going to New York kind of thing. So I remember he flew out and we were hanging out like before the show, and he's like, I have to take a shit, like I want to take a shit at the toilet in CBGB's kind of thing. Yes. And so we went and you've been to CBGB's before? You guys played there?
Yeah, we played in 2003.
Sick. Yeah, so like the toilet like doesn't have like a door or anything, and it's kind of like down the stairs in the back. I don't know if you kind of remember that kind of like area, but you like come down the stairs and you just like see the toilet right there, like, and there's no door or anything. So yeah, my dad was like, I have to take a shit at CBGB's. That was like a thing he wanted to do.
Well, it's the most famous toilet in America.
Yeah, straight up, like, yeah. So yeah, playing CBGB's was like, you know, a huge thing, and yeah, like, I remember Corey couldn't do that tour because he had like all these back problems. I don't know. He had back surgery like shortly after that, I want to say, or something. Something happened where Corey couldn't do the tour, and John Westbrook played guitar on that tour.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we came back from that tour. We played a couple shows, and we ended up playing a show at the Troubadour in Hollywood with there was this tour that was like a full US tour, but we just played a couple shows. But it was like, I think we played in Ojai, and then we played at the Troubadour with Converge, Hope Conspiracy, and American Nightmare or something like that. But we played the Troubadour, and that was like, I want to say the next day was like, I got a call from Corey. He's like, Carry On's done. Fuck this shit. And I was like, wait, what? And then I was like, that's when I kind of found out about everything. Like, I definitely, you know, had no idea up to that point. I was kind of just like this, kind of still like the new guy at the band or whatever. And just like,
sure.
I think Corey found out that Ryan had broke Edge or whatever, and then he just like, fuck this shit, and fucking broke up the band or whatever.
Yeah, that was the end of it.
Yep.
Because I mean, Todd talked on the interview on here. If people want to go listen to it, they can go back. He basically found out, I think either right before or on that tour, that Ryan wasn't straight edge anymore, and he didn't know how to deal with it, and he didn't tell Corey either. And he says that's like one of his biggest regrets, is like kind of holding that from him. So I can understand why Corey was pretty upset.
Yeah.
So how long after that do you get a call from Todd that he wants to start something new?
It was like, looking back, I feel like it was like literally like a week later or something like that. Like it was very short afterwards. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, and the band after, is that the Vengeance band that you do for a split second, or is it the beginning of Terror?
No. So I actually never played in Vengeance, but I recorded their demo, and I might have helped out with some shit, but like, yeah, I never played in the band. But yeah, I don't know. I can't remember the timeline of that because it didn't really come out.
Yeah,
there was like, I want to say like when Carry On like split up, it was kind of just like chaos. Like it was like there was just all these, like all the people in Carry On just like started new bands like right away. So I think like I did that band with Corey. We started Piece by Piece like right around that time, and then I think because me and Corey were doing that, I think Todd wanted to like, I don't know if that, I mean, I'm probably got that wrong. That's probably not the reason why, but yeah, I think he just wanted to do another band right away, and so I think Vengeance happened around that same time also.
So in 2002, you obviously a giant life moment of yours is joining Terror. But 2002 is a wild fucking year for you because, in my opinion, you do two other giant things. One is you start Piece by Piece, and the second one is you really come into your own as an engineer. And what I wanna do is do a little sidebar on that before we go into Piece by Piece.
Sure.
So in '02, the first thing other than doing like Terror demo stuff and jamming around with Todd, what are some of the early projects you did before you did the Annihilation Time LP?
I mean, that might have been. It's hard to tell what is the kind of the first thing, because I did like the knife fight demo, and yeah, the Terror demo right around then. So it's hard to remember what was like the first thing, but before that, I mean, it was really just I was kind of recording literally anybody, just some like punk rockers that I knew from from the neighborhood or whatever that would just hit me up, and it was just totally kind of random, but nothing really notable, I guess, until like 2002 when the Annihilation Time LP, and I think Knife Fight, Terror, and I think another thing I did in 2002 was that band Stand and Fight.
Yes.
Or eventually they changed their name to Stand and Fight, but they were Impact before that.
Right.
So I did their demo, which was the singer from 10 Yard Fight.
Yes.
Yeah, so it all kind of just like started to kind of, I started getting a bunch of people hitting me up, just because I kind of met a bunch of people through Carry On, and yeah, I just had a little, studio at my house, and at that time it was kind of hard to find somewhere to record, so I just ended up getting a lot of kind of cool projects coming in.
Yeah, because you really come out the gate there in '02 with like, that's all like good classic California stuff, and so then taking on the Annihilation Time LP, that's like, it's a big deal. Like that's a band that they really cared about, and they kind of started something that it's lasted until this day in Oxnard, like that heavy blast influence.
Sure. Yeah.
So you do this LP. It's the first time, obviously, you've done like an LP that's going to come out on a label and so forth. Was there any added pressure on you opposed to like doing a demo?
Not really, because I mean, at the time, I don't even really remember if there was a plan that it was coming out on a label. It was kind of like more like, hey, we want to record these 10 songs. So yeah, it wasn't even a thing like, oh, hey, we're recording an LP, we want you to do it kind of thing. It was more like, hey, can we come in and record these 9 tracks?
Yeah.
So I'd met Fred and Graham, and so I knew those guys, and I also kind of knew Tony on drums, and he's Todd's cousin, right? I think.
Yep, Todd's cousin.
Yeah, and so I knew those guys. So they just hit me up. Hey, we want to book some days so we can come in and record these 9-10 tracks.
Yeah, so cool. And Tony was a ripper. He still is. He plays and everything. But at that time, I mean, like those years when he like, it's always interesting. Like when a drummer gets really good, you go from like an average drummer to like a good drummer. Like that jump is always like, it's an impressive time.
Yeah, he was really good. I think some of these records that we were talking about around that time, I think a lot of them turned out cool because everybody could really play. And had a really unique style. So Tony was one of those dudes that he was super solid, just like really in the pocket, like solid drummer. So yeah, I mean, he just like totally nailed it. I think he even did some vocals on a song or two, and he was good on that.
Yeah, probably. He's like one of those all around guys, right? Like he's someone that went from like never playing guitar to being able to play like no effects over the summer. you know?
Yeah.
Just by noodling.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
But yeah, super cool. So that's a rad LP to like come out the gate with. And then, so I just got some notables written down that I wanted to go through because
Sure.
we don't talk about Corey enough on the podcast. You do Internal Affairs Casualty of the
Yeah.
Core in '03.
Yep.
Super, super cool record. And did you work with them throughout everything? Because that's another unique thing about you. Like, you kind of like nurtured Vendetta. You put out one of the records, and then I think, did you record one? But you definitely helped them. Like, they kind of like,
Sure.
they considered you kind of like a mentor, and then later definitely Take Offense feels about you that way.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. With Vendetta, I just remember meeting them at these shows. I mean, I can't remember what show it was or anything, but they were just younger kids. I think they were like 15, 16 at the time, and they were just starting. And yeah, so we kind of became buddies, and then when they were ready to record, they hit me up. So I think I recorded their demo. So that was the first time like we actually kind of got to hang out and really spend some time together. So I think from then we kind of built a real friendship, and I always stayed in touch with them. And so they kind of kept me in the loop whenever they were doing a new record. So when they recorded I can't even remember the name of the record now.
Because they did the
one that
they did the first one on Scott's label, and you did the second one.
That's right. Yeah. So Takeover Records did that, and then I can't remember the name of their second 7-inch that I put out, but I just remember getting like a CDR copy of it. They didn't have a plan for releasing it or anything. I think they just paid for the recording themselves, and they didn't really know what they're going to do. And I just heard it, and I was like, "This is awesome! I love it!" And you know, we're really like the guys already, anyways. So yeah, from there I was like, I'd love to like, start a label with this and just let this kind of be like, if I'm gonna do a label, this would be an awesome like first release.
Yeah.
And they were super into it, and I think we just like we were just like became bros, and they were a little bit younger than me, and I don't know, we just even now whenever I see Andrew, it's just like really cool to catch up and stay good friends through all this.
Yeah, so for Internal Affairs, I'll hash out the story. I gotta have Corey on at some point, but
Sure.
So I'm assuming that you kind of start piece by piece and Terror at the same time, and then Terror just out the gate, you guys are gone, touring all the time, etc. And this is probably why he wants to do another band other than just play piece by piece. Plus, like, dude's a fucking natural frontman, right? Like, how did he?
Yeah.
How is he? He was in hardcore for over 10 years and didn't sing in a band, so finally gets a chance.
Yeah.
And so, so
totally.
he does Internal Affairs, and you do this record. Do you remember anything about recording it?
Not really. I think all the Internal Affairs records and recording set that kind of, I can't really remember the 7-inch, so I'm kind of remembering like the demo and the 7-inch in one session. Mm-hmm. I just remember like hearing his voice for the first time and thinking like, whoa, that's what you sound like. Like, it was so crazy sounding.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And I think he didn't spend a lot of time really trying to like perfect the songs or anything. He just wanted it to have this like raw energy, and so a lot of things like we ended up just kind of finishing in the studio too, like, or even writing songs. I think we wrote whole entire songs just in the studio. Like, all right, we have 5 songs, we need another 2 songs, let's write a couple songs. And we would write them right then and there and then record them. So I have those kind of memories. And then when we did the Deadly Visions record, I believe that was the first, or one of the first things that I did in Pro Tools. So that was kind of like getting used to like recording in a digital platform. I think I did that record and the Down Again
Yeah.
LP.
Shout out Rick.
Those were like the first two things I did like on Pro Tools instead of on the tape machine.
Yeah, and you also put out the Down Again.
Yeah.
Yeah, so cool. All right. Another one that I think is really cool is you've engineered or helped produce all 3 Rotting Out LPs. Is that correct?
Yeah. One of Street Prowl, I didn't do any technical stuff on it. I did a little bit of right before they went into the studio. I got together with Walter and we almost did this like really like hyper, like real quick pre-pro kind of day where I just went over all the songs with him. He had everything, they had everything finished, and he was just kind of like, you know, if you have any last minute ideas, maybe we can go over some stuff. So on that record, I just did that with him where we wrote a couple like guitar leads and maybe shortened some things and kind of worked out maybe some structure ideas. And then I just kind of like just gave him my 2 cents, gave him my ideas, and then, you know, the next week they went into the studio and they ended up using some of the ideas. But the other records, it was a full on like production where we were like, I went in with him for a couple weeks of doing some pretty deep like pre-production where we're like really working on the songs and working out all the kinks and details of the structures and vocal patterns and everything. So for the second and the third LP, I did a lot more than that first one.
Yeah, were you able to tell, like, from the beginning of... Because obviously they were a band before Walter sang with the other dude. I apologize for forgetting his name. And they were a pretty good band. But, like, as soon as Walter comes in, like, it just kind of... It turns into a pretty special band. Were you able to see that, like, out the gate?
Yeah, that was, like... I had seen Rotting Out without Walter on vocals, and it didn't really like hit me hard. And then I remember seeing them maybe at Chain Reaction or something. It was the first time seeing them with him on vocals, and it was just a whole nother band. It just like changed the whole vibe, and he's such a good front man. I was like, wow, this is like, now it really feels like something special. And he was like, he's so like passionate and intense on stage. I was like, yeah, this is awesome. And I just love seeing like from LA, like 5 like Hispanic dudes on stage just like ripping it. I thought that was like, this is a band that should tour the world and be like, we're a LA hardcore band, you know, like really represent like what LA's about.
Yeah, and playing like stripped down aggressive hardcore and then being so popular, it's amazing. The level of confidence that they exude on the new record is amazing. Like when you listen to all the tracks, it just feels like almost like they're writing them knowing that like almost every track like to a song is going to be a hit.
Yeah, cool.
It's super rad.
Yeah, glad that comes across.
Yeah. The other band that you've really helped out like throughout their journey was Take Offense. You didn't engineer the first record, the first LP, but you were with them a lot. You spent a lot of time with them, correct?
Yeah. They were just another one of those bands where I remember seeing them. Well, I remember seeing Down Again play at the Skate Street.
Okay.
And I don't remember who they played with, but they played early or opening up a show there, and something was there. I was like, all right, I got to like meet these guys or talk to them. So I remember like talking to a couple of them and bought their demo at that show, and then obviously ended up after that working with them and doing their record. But yeah, we just kind of totally developed like a really cool friendship and just related on a lot of things, and just the styles that we liked, and just the mentality about things, and I mean, you know, those guys are just like the most down to earth, just really just cool, humble guys. So there's not really anything bad you could say about them just as people. And then on top of that, you know, they have these bands that are just like so cool. And yeah, so hearing the Take Offense, I guess it's I think they did like a couple songs after. I'm trying to get their discography.
They do a demo. They do a split with PC Death Squad, and then they do that PC Death 7-inch. And that's when their sound like hones in to like what Take Offense is.
Exactly. Yeah. So like Walks of Life is on that 7-inch, right? Yeah. So like hearing that, I'm like, all right, this is definitely right up my alley. Like I like a lot of like the like punk bands that like cross over to like thrash metal almost. Like I love that progression. Like really like punk influenced like hardcore that turns into a more crossover metal.
Right.
It's just a really cool mesh of styles. So they were doing that. And yeah, so after that, I think they did like a 2-song something. Or what is that? Is that what you're saying? The split with PC Death?
I think the PC was right before it. The next one, like the super short one, that was on Colin's label, who does Standards Records now. Happiness in Chains.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those songs, I think those songs ended up on their LP after that also, I think.
Yeah.
So just like hearing those songs, I was just like, I love this band. I love these guys. And like, I just wanted to be a part of whatever they're doing. And if, you know, obviously I'm never like, I guess when I'm like, I never really hit bands up like, hey, like, I'd love to produce your record, or like, you know, I never want to like offer. I always like it when a band is interested in doing something with me if they want me to kind of help them or work on producing or whatever. I always like when a band comes my way and asks me about it. So I never really wanted to like pressure them into like, you know, I'd love to like produce a record for you or something. But I wanted to do that with them because I just knew that like I just had cool ideas, and I wanted people to hear that band and hear them in the best possible way. So it's like, if anything I could do to kind of help that their sound and style kind of come across in the right way, I was like, I'd love to be a part of it. And luckily, like, they hit me up about doing their EP with Reaper Records after they did their LP, and we did some really cool stuff on that record. And yeah, since then, I think really like we just worked really well together, and they obviously had a bunch of cool ideas, and they liked my ideas too. So since then, we kind of just been able to like, yeah, kind of work on these records together, and I've been super psyched to be a part of it, and I still think they're like the best band in the country. They're like by far like my favorite.
Yeah, I love them, and the new LP is ridiculous. But yeah, that's what I thought was so awesome, and that's a story that I want told of your life, is like that some of these bands really do seek you out for your ideas, because anyone that knows Greg knows that Greg is like a full-on juggernaut. That's like, you know, he's like a walking dictionary, and he's also very opinionated, you know, and he's also as skilled as anyone on earth. So like for him to like want to come to you for ideas, like it really says something.
Yeah, I think he's getting a little. He probably doesn't need my help as much anymore. But one of the things that that he would struggle with was kind of putting a structure together, because he would just have like 15 of the most insane riffs you've ever heard just piled on top of each other, and you could tell all the riffs were sick. You're like, this riff's sick, this riff is sick, but like the dynamics weren't there. So it's like maybe, if we didn't have 15 riffs, maybe we have only 8 riffs in this song, and then maybe like this riff that we like the most, if this kind of becomes the main riff of the song, maybe we need to showcase it a little bit better, and the riff or the part before it needs to come down a little bit. So when that riff, that's the real special riff, kicks in, it's like, it really shines and stuff like that. So I think that's kind of what I've been able to bring. It's just kind of helping them structure things a little bit better and just showcase their style like in the best way. And same thing with AH too. Like he's one of those people that I love to hear all of his ideas before I even chime in at all, because most of the stuff that he comes up with is so cool and so interesting. Like it'll be the opposite of like what my instincts would be to like do with a part. Mm-hmm. So I always get super excited like hearing what he comes up with from the get-go. Like most of the time I'll be like, all right, 90% of that is like insane. Like I'm so glad you came up with something like that. It's so cool for this part. Let's just work on this to like tighten this up, or maybe we could make this pop a little bit more, or maybe we could come up with a more hooky, chorus thing or something like that. But yeah, all those guys, I mean, they're like super, super creative and really original, just like have really original, cool, different ideas.
Yeah, I got so lucky with AH because they had just done the new LP, and then I had him do a verse on the new Retaliate record. And to get to see him in the studio, like, coming off like how he'd just been in the studio, your confidence is higher than like the first day of the studio when you're like, oh fuck, I hope I'm gonna sound good, and like just to see him lay down this verse that, like you said, it was like nothing I would have come up with is actually completely the opposite of my verse, which is really cool. And then just to see him work it and like work it and like know he can get it better. Like I can't do it like that. Like I'm just so stoked that it's like good and done, but to be there,
like
and
you'll do one take and be like, all right, like that's good. Like I don't know if I can get it any better. He's like kind of the opposite, to where he'll do a take the first time and you're like, whoa, that's awesome. Yeah. And he'll be like, let me keep doing it. And you'll just see him you'll see it develop and just bring in more character here and there, or just the dynamic will kind of change, and you'll just see him like kind of nail it after, 3 or 4 takes as he really kind of works it out in his head.
Yeah, I've just never seen a singer that was so self-aware like that, to like know where he could push himself to,
Yeah, totally.
So super cool. The other thing I wanted to ask about in your engineering career was doing the Strife comeback LP, the Witness a Rebirth. That had to be like super rad for you because you were a big fan of the band. In fact, before Terror, I saw one of your bands covered Strife. So
True.
So that has to be so sick to like be asked by a band that, over 10 years before you had covered, and now you're going to engineer like basically their comeback record.
Yeah, it was really cool and nerve-wracking in a lot of ways. There was definitely a point where I felt like I was recording just like a lot of friends and stuff that like I felt really comfortable with. And then there was projects that I ended up working on where I felt like I needed to like perform, like I needed to bring something, and I felt intimidated in a way, working with especially like a band like Strife, that it was so established and had such a long resume, and just their previous records are just they're big, awesome, records, and I just, if I'm gonna produce and record this next Strife record, I mean, it's got to live up to something. So I obviously felt some pressure and intimidated going into that. At the same time, I'd become really good friends with Andrew from Strife, so I felt really comfortable working with him, and we did a lot of the writing and arranging together. So that was really comfortable, working out all the demos and stuff with him. Yeah, and then it got intimidating again once we started tracking the record, because then it's like, all right, well, now we got to kind of work with all these other dudes that I don't really know very well, and I have to, prove to them that I know what I'm doing, or that my ideas are going to be, are going to work or are going to sound cool. And then going right into the recording of it, we found out, or Andrew hits me up, and he's like, I got Igor from Sepultura is down to record on the record. He wants to play drums on the record, and I'm like, holy shit! Like,
yeah, no pressure.
Yeah, exactly. So, and on top of that, he's like, all right, and he's like, would you be willing to go to Brazil to record? He lives in Sao Paulo. We could, go down there, just the two of us, meet up with him and record the drums down there. So I'm like, let's do it,
Yeah.
So it was like, that was pretty intense going into it, but Igor was such a cool dude. He was like so laid back, really chill, really, really nice guy, that he made you feel comfortable. It wasn't a weird, tense situation. And working with different people over the years, kind of like we were talking about with AH, it's really cool working with people that have their own style and the way they do things, and working with somebody for the first time that has such a different way of doing things. You kind of like, it's so interesting and so cool. So going in the studio with him for the first time, we didn't know if he had listened to any of the demos, so we didn't know if he had heard any of the songs or anything. And we actually kind of assumed that he didn't. So we're like, all right, we might have to teach them the songs, or he'll just have to learn the songs in the studio. And that's what happened. He's like, all right, we got in there, and he's like, all right, just play one of the songs. And he just listened to it probably 7 or 8 times, and he just started making these notes, and he was just writing on this piece of paper and kind of making all these notes. And then he's like, all right, cool, let's go jam it. And so I finally kind of saw what he had written, and he had just pretty much written out the structure of the song, but he had used references that made sense to him to remember each part. So a song might say, like, maybe the verse reminded him of something weird, like you didn't even really understand his reference, but it might say, for the verse, it might say Nirvana, and then it might say, I don't know, Rain and Blood for the chorus or something. Right. And then he would have all these fills written in and stuff. So he'd like built this whole structure. It was the structure of the song, but he wrote it out in this way that he could understand it, and that he could remember, like, oh, I'm going to do a roll right here and everything. And I just never seen somebody kind of analyze a song and then put it on paper like that, and then just go in and play the song. And he just pretty much just playing through it one time, he had already had the song down. So I was like, all right, this is going to be a cool project. We weren't worried at that point. We're like, all right, he's going to be able to nail these. But yeah, it was super cool, super intimidating. I mean, there was some video footage that I ended up seeing like a couple years afterwards, where I'm like going into the drum room and instructing him, like, oh, that was really cool how you did this on the bridge, but instead of doing it on the hi-hat, can we try it on the ride and then do that fill that you did at the end of the chorus, but do it on this bridge too? I think that'd be really cool. And then he's like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. So it's, it seemed like really like smooth and really easy for me to do, but I just remember at the time, like, all right, I have to go in that room and like tell Igor like, what to play pretty much. And it's like pretty crazy.
Did you adopt any of like his strategies for writing out songs? Have you used any of that like moving forward?
Yeah, I would say like every record that I work on, I pick up little ideas from everybody that I work with, really, even just working with AH recently, I've learned to like maybe sometimes let like somebody work on their own a lot more before I jump in with ideas. So stuff like that. I never used to write out structures, and now I do that. And that might have been something that I grabbed from Igor. So especially like if we're in like a pre-production scenario where everybody's learning the song and it's really fresh and it's hard to remember the structure, I'll do that. I'll write out the whole structure on a piece of paper for everybody and put in these little notes and references like that to remember each part. And I'll put it out like on a music stand or something in front of everybody so everybody knows like, oh, the next part is coming up, and they could see it on the piece of paper. So yeah, definitely like learn stuff from all these guys,
So cool. Yeah, and just to wrap up this engineering section, is there anyone that like you would really, really like to work with so you feel like fulfilled?
Shit. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I have an answer for that one. Like, yeah, like, I don't know. I guess nothing comes to mind. Yeah, not really sure.
Yeah, that's fine. There's no big deal on that. Like you said, you like when people come to you and it makes you more comfortable and gives you the ability to thrive.
Yeah, it's not that I like people to come to me like it's like an ego thing or anything. It's more that I feel like if people are coming to me and asking for help with production or whatever, I feel like they know what to expect. Like they kind of know, they've heard from Take Offense or heard from Backtrack or something that like this is how he works and this is the kind of what he does. He's not going to ruin all your riffs. Like he's just gonna he loves to kind of help you kind of build your song and really focus on kind of building these really cool structures and making the vocals really pop and kind of creating hooks and stuff. So I think that's what I mean, that I like when people already kind of know my style or know what I do, and so they're not expecting anything different or apprehensive about what I might do with when I work with them or get in the studio with them. It's kind of like they just feel more comfortable. And I'm not, I don't want to go and sell myself like, to a bunch of bands like, oh, I'd love to produce your record. That's always been like kind of like a cheesy style or something.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's jump to Piece by Piece. So you do Terror in 2002. You also do Piece by Piece in 2002. The demo comes out, and what are you going in here for? Are you writing the songs? Is Corey writing the songs? What's the structure of the band?
Yeah, I wrote some songs. Corey wrote a few songs also. I just remember wanting to start a band. One of the bands that really influenced Piece by Piece at the beginning was Striking Distance. I loved Striking Distance.
Hell yeah.
And I saw Dave Bird. I saw Striking Distance play at Ojai, and I don't know what year it was or what show it was, but I just remember like the kind of pissed off fury behind this like really fast hardcore punk, and I just wanted to do something that was like that just sounded really aggressive and really pissed off and super fast. Yeah, so I think a couple of guys like Sean, I went to high school with, and we kind of built the band together. He was going to play drums, and then our friend Jeff Givens, he'd never been in a band before, and he didn't really know how to play an instrument, and we kind of taught him how to play bass just so he could be in the band.
Yeah, because he was a hardcore dude that'd been around for a while, always moshed, so you wanted to have a hardcore dude in the band.
Yeah, and he's just like an unreal character. I mean, he's like so funny. He's just like this witty dude. He's just so like fun to be around. So yeah, we're like we want Jeff in the band. At the time, another guy that I went to high school with, a really good friend of mine, Nick, his name was Nick Schultz. He was on guitar originally, and then so I think we were jamming, and then we wanted Corey to be in the band, but we weren't sure if he like would be interested in it, and because we're all around the same age, and at the time, even though Corey's only 4 years older than me or something, I felt like he was like a generation older. So I felt intimidated, like even asking him to be in the band. I didn't know if he would be into it or whatever. But luckily he was, and we became really good friends. And yeah. So it was the five of us at first.
And you do the demo and you record it. And then, do you remember the first show? It predates Terror, correct?
Yeah, I don't remember the first show. Maybe Ojai Women's Club.
Because I remember the first Terror show, I want to say Piece by Piece headlined. You guys played after Terror. Like, you had already done a show before and had your demo.
Yeah. I think it was either Piece by Piece headline or Annihilation Time.
Okay.
Something like that. But it was... Yeah, Piece by Piece played after Terror at Terror's first show. So, yeah, there was like this period where when Carry On broke up, where Piece by Piece had already I think we already recorded, and we started playing a lot of shows right off the bat. So I think we were playing in very early, like 2002, from like January to April, like a lot. And yeah, so by the time Terror played his first show in April, I think we had already done a lot. And so, I don't really, so I think, as weird to say, like, you're like headlining shows, but I think we'd like, had some pretty good shows. So we ended up booking some shows where we were playing a little bit higher on the bill or something.
Yeah, and it's headlining Pat's Warehouse, so you just got to draw 7 people.
that's not, you're not headlining if you're headlining at Pat's Warehouse. That's amazing.
Yeah. But no, I mean, the demo has, like, classics on it, so you guys come out the gate, like, hot, like the Die Go Die song is still, like, a Piece by Piece hit, right?
Yeah.
It's there, and then you come this same year, '02, with the Written in Blood 7-inch on Takeover. Mm-hmm. And this is great. I mean, I think if you're going for like the striking distance, like this nails it. This like is right next to it. Of being like super fast and aggressive, but like the songs are all classic. I mean, like if you look at that first striking distance 7-inch, that's like 10 songs. But like the songs don't feel like they're throwaway songs. They sound like they're all fucking rad.
Yeah, totally.
And that's how this is. You do the fast thrashy stuff, but then you also like you incorporate like a little bit of melody just to make it catchy, but it doesn't come off like cheesy, which is like very, very hard to do.
Yeah.
So No, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just thinking. Yeah, I mean, I like melodic hardcore, but I'm very picky with which melodic hardcore I like. So that's always, for me, it's always a tricky thing when you're starting to write something that's like melodic. You're like, oh, if we're going in that direction, like we got to be careful. We got to make sure it's like it's actually cool. It's not not cheesy or whack sounding.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And how is it like doing a band like that where like you come out the gate, you got some heat going, but then like, Terror is the juggernaut. Is everyone just like kind of accepting and just stoked that like you're going off and doing your thing? Like no one's upset that like Piece by Piece is kind of like taking the back role?
I don't think so. I mean, I think I might have had a conversation with everybody, kind of like I'm doing this. I'm gonna do this other band with Todd, and everybody kind of just knew, like, oh, okay, well, it's gonna be a more serious thing. I mean, Piece by Piece was never a serious thing in the first place, so it was just fun, like play shows here and there, and record things. So I don't think there was ever any kind of like weirdness, like, oh, like, bummed that you can't really do the band as much anymore. I think everybody was psyched on Terror. I think all those guys were just they were psyched to see what Terror could do, so they were supportive.
Yeah, probably like kind of the same mentality of how you were just talking about Rotting Out, right? Like just glad that there's like a flagship LA band.
Yeah, sure, definitely. And like all these guys, I mean, I think they knew the potential that Carry On had also. So when Carry On ended, it felt like it was on the brink of Carry On really getting a lot bigger and doing a lot more things. So everybody knew everybody was bummed that Carry On had ended, and this felt like a progression, like almost like picking up where Carry On had left off. Like everybody knew like Terror was kind of going to go out and be full on like Carry On was planning on being. So I think everybody was excited about it.
How do you think that would have gone? Do you think that like if Ryan didn't break Edge, that Carry On would have gone on and been a full-time band like that, like done like Terror the first couple years?
One that I think for sure. I think that was the plan. I want to say there was a European tour in the works that was already had dates. There was tours that were talked about, like when Bridge 9 did the LP, it was kind of like, all right, we're gonna do this thing full time. Todd and everybody, they asked me like, are you down to do this full time? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. So I think that was the plan. Yeah, and then it kind of, it ended abruptly. At least for me, it was abruptly. I was, I still had, had this idea that it was going to go on and we were going to do a bunch of stuff. And then, we played a show, and the next day, I like, get a call, like the band's done. I'm like, oh, well,
right.
I was like
Right.
psyched to go to Europe, psyched to kind of,
Yeah.
do these things. But then, yeah, so Terror was kind of like, it felt like all the momentum and the steam that Carry On was
shifted.
kind of building, it shifted to that right away. Yeah. Like I know that, I feel like that's what Todd felt like. He wanted to do that with Terror because, it with Carry On, it didn't happen.
Yeah, and sometimes scenes are fortunate enough to like really have that like passing of the torch. Like it's a shame the way Carry On ended, but at least like there was like a juggernaut that it kind of got passed to. When you talk about like the momentum going, I always think
Yeah.
about like in San Diego, Built to Last was like the band for a long time of like kind of holding the scene together, and then
Yep.
right at the end of their time, Over My Dead Body started. So it literally got like passed from one to the other. So there was
Sure.
always like a flagship band with like no fall off, which is rad
Yeah.
because it's really hard to get interest in a scene when like there's not like a flagship band.
Yeah,
when-
exactly.
Because
Yeah,
it's
there's
hard to
like
start
not.
something out of nothing, you know? Like, if
Yeah,
there's already
totally.
200 kids going to shows, then it's like, well, those 200 kids want to keep going to shows, you know? But to build it out of, like, 15 kids is really hard.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, exactly. So like you said, I think all this happened like it was really seamless. I mean, it's really like I think that last Carry On show was in like December of 2001,
Yeah.
and Piece by Piece was playing shows in like January, and then Tara was recording our demo probably in like February or March or something like that, and then Tara was playing our first show April. And then I remember 10 shows in, we were playing on the East Coast already. So later that, I would say June, we played Hellfest in Syracuse.
Right.
So this is all like from 6 months of like, Carry
Yeah.
On ending to Tara being on the East Coast playing in front of, 1,000 people or something.
I know. What a roller coaster. I mean, it's
Yeah.
crazy, especially it happening like, you're 20-ish, somewhere around there.
I was 18 when I started playing in Carry On. I was 19 when Tara played our first show.
Yeah, so you're 19.
Yeah. So it was like, yeah.
So,
I mean, I was just psyched. Like I had no expectations. I was just kind of like, let's play shows, let's go to places. Like I'm down for whatever. That was my mentality.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that Piece by Piece is so important also because it gives you confidence in songwriting, right? So like when you actually have to step up in the third Terror LP and write it, like you know that you have songs under your belt that like can connect with people.
I don't know if I did have that confidence. I mean, I guess there might have been something there that, a little bit of confidence that maybe I could write a Terror song, but it was different. I mean, to me, writing a Piece by Piece song was so simple, so like stripped down and like nothing. It was just like it was more just like raw, like punk, more punk influenced. When I thought about writing like a Terror song, I'm like, oh well, there's more technique, guitar technique, trying to match like something that Todd would write, like
Sure.
with like the more like tremolo picking, or it's just definitely more riffage, a lot, and it just felt like it was a lot different. But at the same time, I guess I always, no matter what band I was in, I was always writing or contributing to the creative process. So if I was writing a riff, bringing a riff in, or writing a whole song, I guess I did that with every band that I was in, even the kind of earlier whatever random punk bands and stuff. So I guess I was always something that I wanted to be a part of. So I guess just having a little bit of confidence of always doing that with the other bands.
Yeah, super cool. In '04, you do your second 7-inch, We've Lost Our Minds, and this is on Malfunction. Was that True's label?
Yeah, True and
Yeah.
Linus.
Okay, yeah, shout out True and Linus. Yes,
Yep.
super cool label for a while. And they do the 7-inch, and they also do the CD that has the demo and then both 7-inches. And
Yep.
that was always like a cool time when like bands, you do a few 7-inches and a demo, and then like it all comes together on CD, and you get all
Yeah.
the songs. Like, man, I kind of miss that.
Yeah, it's kind of like a little mini discography. Like even though you only been a band for like 2 years or something, you get like all the material on one CD.
Yeah, the best was like the Bane one. When they had those 3 7-inches, and then it came out
Yeah.
like on the one LP and then the
Exactly.
CD. And it was like, oh
Yeah.
fuck yeah, because like I don't know, it's a palatable way to like take in this music that I think is like it's really underrated. Like maybe we would be all better off like getting 3 songs a year from a band, or like 5 songs every couple years, But then
True.
you want a way to like tie it together in chunks. It's just, man, it's daunting. Like hardcore bands, it's hard when you get out so much material. Like what if my favorite Terror track is like the 6th track on the 6th album? Like,
Yeah.
I'm probably never gonna get to hear it live, And it's like, fuck, you want to hear these hardcore songs live?
Yeah, yeah.
It's brutal.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think that's one of the things that like is like helped piece by piece in a way that we never really technically did in LP. Like I think it's always I think it's easier to write a really energetic EP, 7-inch, something with less songs. So it's like I mean, if a band could just do that over and over again, it's like you can almost like always come with something that's really just energetic and kind of hits you in the face and it's done.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so pure because you're not like overthinking it. Like no matter how
True.
short an LP is, you're always thinking about some sort of like an arch. Like you got to take them on a journey. In a 7-inch,
exactly.
like you said, it's just you're blasting them with like the best stuff you can write. Just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, go.
Yeah, just raw energy, like whatever,
Yeah.
whatever you come up with that just maintains that energy from start to finish. Yeah.
Yeah. So also in '04, this is a busy year for Piece by Piece. You do a split with Donnybrook as well.
Yeah.
And then, do you guys tour with Donnybrook, or did Internal Affairs tour with Donnybrook?
Internal Affairs did
Okay.
like a full US with them.
Okay.
Yeah. This is kind of the point where Piece by Piece kind of becomes like more of a side project because it was like, okay, Terror's home for a week. Maybe we could play a show. We're home for a month. Maybe we could throw together some songs and record a record. So yeah, we definitely like got to the point where we're playing, maybe 6 times a year or something like that. Definitely not doing any like tours. Maybe a weekend trip here and there.
Yeah, because it's 6 years until your next record.
Yeah.
So that comes
Yeah,
out
I mean, Terror's just so
sorry.
busy that it's like, yeah, I mean, I guess Terror's so busy that it's really during this period for sure where it's just, yeah, it's hard to do anything else because Terror's just gone nonstop.
Right. But in 010, or in 010, in 2010, you come back and you do the self-titled 12-inch for Piece by Piece. And this is sick because it's a 12-inch and the cover's sick, and like the imagery, everything is great about it. And this one's wild too because like the side B, you guys branch out a little bit and you kind of do like some more rockin' stuff and some of the songs are in Espanol.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is
so
that
I
you?
think that's like direct. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Nah, is it you singing or is it Edgar?
That's me singing on most of it. There's like a melodic part where Edgar sings.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think that was like trying to bring in. Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite bands ever is Turbo Negro, and
yeah.
so I felt like Piece by Piece could be a band that could kind of meld in some of that style and still keep it like pretty punk rock. Yeah, so we started like, I guess we had a couple songs that are more like rock influenced, I guess, but wanted to keep it really raw. Like, we're not trying to be a rock band or anything. We wanted to be punk rock at the same time as a little kind of more rock style. And I think also, like Edgar and I, like we always listen to a lot of like Spanish speaking like bands. Like we always love Los Crudos and bands like Brujeria and just being from LA.
I thought you were gonna say Maná, but then you came out with
Well,
Los Crudos and Brujeria.
I do love Maná though. That's like definitely a band that I'm into.
Have you seen them before?
Also, I've never seen them. I wanted to see them at the Forum. Like this is recently in the last few years, and I went to like see what the ticket price was, and it was like for the nosebleeds, it was like $200 or something. I was like, fuck that shit.
Nah, I went last summer. That was the second time I saw them. They were great. They played like the outdoor spot in Chula Vista. But I seen them play. I seen them play the arena here in San Diego one year. It was so fucking sick, dude. It was probably like 8 years ago.
like
at
the
sports
arena. Oh, sick.
Yeah. Yeah, it was ill because it was like the day of the show, and of course, like no one wants to go see Mana. And so what I did was I just lowballed everyone on Craigslist. So like anyone that was selling tickets, I just sent them an email and said, "I'll give you $20 for a ticket if you want it." You
Yeah.
know. And one family got back to me and they said like, "Hey, we had one person flake. Like if you come pick up the ticket, you can have it for $20." And I was like, "Sick."
And you
And
went by yourself?
yeah, I went solo and like sat with the
That's
family.
amazing.
Yeah, and it was like, dude, we were only like 25 rows back. It was ill.
Wow.
Yeah, it was rad because like I've gone to huge concerts before, but like it's metal concerts. You know, it's like Maiden or something.
Yep.
So it's really loud. So it's wild to go to a Mana concert. Like, you know, if Mana sang English, we probably wouldn't like him at all. They'd just be a radio band like U2 or some shit, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And I love old U2, but like, you know, I'm not that into contemporary radio music. But it's so fun to go because like every motherfucker knows every word, you know,
Yeah.
and they're all singing it, and so it's like, dude, it is like nothing else, like because like it's literally everyone in the crowd is singing every word, and they're not that loud, so you just hear it. It's
Yeah.
amazing. It's amazing.
Well, they are kind of like like they're that big. I mean, they're like the U2 of like Spanish
yeah.
rock, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'd like to see him at some point for sure.
it's worth it, dude. I mean, like, you know, everyone's getting older. I'd drop that $200 and go.
True,
Like,
yeah.
It's fun for the experience. Plus, people will trip out. Like when I went that first time, like everyone was buying me beers because like they're like, well, why are you here? You know,
that's
because like I'm
funny.
just me. You know, I stood out like a sore thumb. But
That's
like
that's amazing.
I like Manon, and I can speak a little Spanish. So what the fuck?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So that, I mean, Edgar exposed me to, you know, all these like Spanish rock bands, and like he loved Brujeria. So we used to jam Brujeria all the time, and yeah, and like the more like punk stuff like Los Crudos, and so we were like, it just being from Southern California, and I mean, you know, it's just like how intertwined like the Hispanic and like culture is mixed into just everything, that is like for a band from LA, like it definitely like kind of just reflects kind of like where we come from. And yeah, so I don't speak fluent Spanish. I know a little bit, and I had the idea to do it, and it's funny. Like Edgar speaks, you know, he speaks Spanish, but his Spanish is like really like to translate for him. It's tough because he'll translate it in a way that it's like an Americanized Spanish. It's not like, it won't sound really authentic or something. So I remember we asked his younger sister to translate for us. So we were like writing lyrics, and she, at the time, I think she was like 13, 14 or something. So like we interrupted like her doing her homework or something, and had her translate all these, you know, like, this is what we wanted to say. And she's like, oh no, you can't really say it like this. So she helped us kind of translate everything properly. And yeah, that was fun.
Yeah. I mean, like people, you know, you just, if you don't know Spanish, like, you just think that like it's a language, but it's a living, breathing language like English is. You know, it's like, and Mexico is huge. It's got a bunch of states, and a lot of people speak in different ways. You know, and then let alone like Spain, you know, is like completely different Spanish, even though it's still Spanish. It's like, you know, it's just there's lots of difference in intricacies, and then like the different states in Mexico, they all got different slang, you know, which is pretty wild. And yeah, it's cool. I thought that was a cool thing you guys did.
Yeah.
And then actually the year before that, you do another side band, Wings Beer and Sports.
Oh,
And
shit.
yeah, dude. Well, you put out a 7-inch. It's a piece of history.
Yeah.
You do everything on this record?
The music, yeah. I
And
think
then who
so.
sings?
Yeah. Fucking everybody. It was kind of like, it kind of, yeah, it started as we were having parties at the house that I was renting from my mom. So it was me, Jeff Givens, and this dude, Misha. Friend of ours. And we just had, whenever I was home, though I wasn't on tour with Terror, we had parties like every day, it seemed like. And a bunch of people would come over. There'd be like, people would just get bombed. I mean, I don't drink, but I'm like partying with everybody. And we had the studio there also. So we would go in the studio, and I would just write something really fast with programmed drums, and just get everybody to come in and pretty much freestyle lyrics over these songs, completely drunk, like to the point of where they're probably like blacked out. There's plenty of times where we would record something, I would send the track to everybody the next day, and everybody would be like, I don't even remember recording this. Like, I don't remember saying that at all. And so it's just like this total crazy party caught on tape kind of thing. And it's obviously just meant to be like really, offensive in some ways, just get, kind of just like piss people off, maybe, create this kind of party vibe, and just have fun. I mean, we were just having fun, and then we would record it, and then the songs ended up coming out kind of cool. So we ended up releasing the 7-inch with a few of the songs.
Yeah, it's cool. And then who was Birds of Paradise Records?
Bo Thompson.
Oh,
who's so
Donnybrook.
Him and Martine were doing it.
Oh, cool.
But I think it was more Bo was kind of doing most of it or something.
Yeah, super cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Then in 2011, you guys do the side project band SOS, the OU Nothing 7-inch. That's got to be rad to work with Matt Henderson, greatest American songwriter ever.
Exactly. Yeah. Sick. Yeah, I totally agree with that statement. At this point, he was, definitely like my idol when it came to songwriting, the style of hardcore that I was into. Like, he just, I feel like all the stuff that he wrote, he just totally nailed it, from AF to Madball. So he moved to California. I don't know when he moved to California, but he lives in Long Beach area. And so we met him and became kind of like just kind of acquainted. We would see him at Madball shows or kind of talk to him, and then we just became a little bit closer. Then him and Scott were talking about doing a project together, and then I got brought into it. Beatty from Hatebreed, Scott kind of put it all together, and then Sam Trapkin from Trapped Under Ice also. And it was kind of just meant to be like a fun thing. Let's all get together and see what we come up with. And obviously it's like super cool to be able to jam with Matt Henderson and Beatty. He's like legendary dudes. Another one of those experiences where you're in the studio working with these guys that you look up to, and just see how they do things, and how they come from another time where things are done differently, and the way they put songs together, and the way they think about how the songs kind of develop. It was just really cool. Learned a lot from working with those dudes.
Yeah, and super cool record. Glad it came out. Everyone should get that if that snuck under your radar.
Hell yeah.
In 2013, you guys come back, you do the Primitive as Fuck 7-inch. And, man, every song title has got it in there almost, huh? Or half of them. This is kind of when, for sure, like, piece by piece, like, the wheels come off a little bit of, like, you guys are just going YOLO style. Like,
sure, yeah.
Like, you're just letting it all out now,
Yeah.
It's pretty wild. Wild record. What's the thinking of the time?
I think like I don't know. I think we came up with the title and we just laughed about it for like hours. We just
Well,
thought
and the
like,
title track is like totally is fucking sick, right?
yeah, it's and to me that's like an internal fair song, you know, like
Yeah.
that was like, all right, let's write a song internal affairs would write, 15 seconds, one, two word, whatever it is, yeah, but I think, yeah, we just like is more just like, fuck it. Let's just like go for it, do something that will make people think like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Like totally kind of like an inside joke to us, but maybe, like maybe people are thinking that we're serious, but at the same time, like that made it even funnier to us. Like, it's just like trying to do something that's super, super raw. I mean, I love shit that is fast as fuck. So we just wanted to do a lot of really fast songs and, yeah, be funny, but not really, kind of blatant with it, but also kind of like taking the piss out of people too. Like, are these people serious? Are they trying to be funny or are they not? Like that whole thing,
Right.
like just like we loved it. We were like, and to this point, up to this point, even, thinking about, doing other piece by piece records, it's like, I think that became like, a blueprint for like future records too. Like just
Sure.
the style of piece by piece, just like fuck it, let's do something wild, something that's like furious sounding and funny in a way, but still try to like record it to where it's done really well, so it's not the whole thing isn't a joke. You could put it on and like, wow, this is like still sounds really good or played tight or whatever, but is also just kind of, halfway like a joke, kind of funny but serious at the same time.
Yeah, well, and then I mean you got a pop song on it too to end it, right?
Yeah. So at the same time, it's like, all right, if we're gonna do a really clean sounding, like more rock, like melodic song, let's put the most kind of semi offensive, like crazy lyrics to it, so it doesn't sound like we're trying to be a serious rock band. So yeah,
No, but it's you having your love of like you said, Turbo Negro or like the Helicopters.
sure,
Like that
and
kind
yes,
of that kind of style. It's like
exactly. And so if you know Turbo Negro and you hear this song and you hear this record, I think you get it. I mean, I think that's a similar thing that they do. So that's
yeah.
that's definitely like obviously a big influence for the band.
Yeah, I actually think that you like kind of nail it on the last record. The Go Die, like the Flexi,
Sure.
came out of War. Like that stuff is hard to explain what it sounds like. But it's fucking cool. Like I would like to hear kind of a band like if I don't know if you put a little more effort in and did something like this as a project, like it could be something really special because it's kind of like lo-fi indie rockin', but short,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know. And it's like, man, this is something I could like sink my teeth into, like an LP worth of material.
Cool. Yeah, that was like an interesting thing where it wasn't even really, we weren't really sure if it was going to be an actual release or not. Smackman, who plays drums for Piece by Piece now, he was out in L.A. and just the two of us, we went to my uncle actually has a studio built in his garage. So this is after I wasn't living at the house where I had the studio built, so I didn't have a place to record. Now I do a lot of like my recording at a friend of mine's place. He has a studio built out in his house that's actually right down the street from my old place. But that's where we did like the new Take Offense and stuff I've done recently. But so at the time, I didn't really have a place to record, so we went to my uncle's studio, and we wanted to just do something really raw. And everybody's recording on, in Pro Tools now. So we're like, he had a tape machine there. So like, let's do it on tape. And I want to just like write a song and then record it. Like me and like I was playing guitar, Smackman on drums. And then, let's finish the song. So let's write a song. We'll record the drums and guitar live. And then I'll go and record the bass and maybe another guitar. I think there's some songs on that record that only have one guitar. But then let's actually write lyrics and then record the vocals. So that's what we did. So we recorded one song, we wrote it, recorded it, wrote the lyrics, recorded the vocals, and then went back in the room. All right, let's write another song. And we did that 5 times.
Yeah.
And after that, I dumped everything into Pro Tools and mixed it in Pro Tools. But we recorded it and we sat on it like just kind of as a cool recording that we did for probably 3 years, maybe even.
Okay.
And then we're like, let's release it. It's really cool. Like whenever we would listen to it, we'd be like, this is really cool. It's like definitely different. Kind of weird sounding, like certain parts, but we're like, fuck it, let's just release it. And I think we were doing some tours, some small tours and stuff. So let's just put it out, and then we'll have something for when we go play these shows.
Yeah, I think it's rad. I would like to hear more of this style. I think you got it in you because it comes off like your demo. It sounds like you're demoing a style. But I think it's something that could like really work, and there's nothing else that really sounds like it.
Yeah,
if you
cool.
could actually dig into it. But yeah, it's cool. This is all I got for your outside terror stuff.
Yeah,
and this is a lot of shit, dude. To stretch out 2 hours of no terror. Do you feel like there's anything that we missed?
No, I mean, like, I think during all these years, I think it was just like, I love being in the studio. I love being creative. I love working on records. If it's not mine, if it's somebody else's record, I just love the experience of like getting in the studio and trying to come up with something original, or just helping other people kind of like develop their sound, or like try to help somebody else kind of like just tune in their original thing. And I just love the creative process. So yeah, there's just like so many little things over the years, just all these little recordings, and it's cool to revisit them and talk about them a little bit.
Yeah, you feel like you've been well represented?
Yeah, for sure.
All right, awesome. Cool, Nick. Thanks so much for doing this. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, man. All right, sick.